Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today's Monday, August 25th, 2025, and welcome to your daily news update on Blip Brief. Small, but almost everything updated daily. Here, we take those daily blips, those small updates, and we really dive deep. I'm ready to unpack today's biggest developments, especially what's shaping India's economy, right alongside you.
Absolutely. And our goal, as always, is to cut through all that noise, give you the crucial why behind the numbers, connect the dots. We're focusing heavily on India, yeah, but with those key global connections woven in. It's all curated so you, our listeners, get a truly informed view.
Okay, let's get straight into it then. Indian markets. So last Friday, August 22nd, the close was, well, notably lower. The BSE Sensex down quite a bit, 693.9 points. That's a 0.8% dip, closing at 800,306.9.
Yeah, and the Nifty 50 followed right along. It shed 213.6 points, also 0.8%, ended at 24,870.1.
Even gold took a hit, down 0.9% as of Friday, trading at 9935.0. But this morning, maybe some brighter signs. Gifty Nifty is looking higher.
And the Nikkei in Japan is up 1%, so some positive cues there.
Okay, so Friday's dip. What was driving that cautious feeling? Was it just profit taking?
That was a big part of it, yeah. Definitely seeing profit booking. Investors were, maybe a bit nervous ahead of a tariff agreement deadline that's been looming. Created some uncertainty.
Right. But looking ahead to today?
Well, there's this underlying optimism, I'd say. A lot of anticipation around the GST 2.0 reforms, those potential changes to streamline the goods and services tax. Plus, India's domestic economy is looking pretty strong, robust macroeconomics. So that could provide some support, a kind of backbone for the market.
Okay, so it's that classic push-pull, global worries versus domestic strength.
Exactly. Immediate concerns versus the longer-term fundamentals here.
Got it. Let's talk specifics from Friday, just for context today. Gainers.
Right. On the upswing, we had Mahindra and Mahindra up 0.8%. Maruti Suzuki India saw a decent bump, between 0.5 and 0.7%. Bharti Airtel was up slightly. Bharat Electronics gained 0.2%. And Sun Pharma 2 up 0.2%.
Okay, but not everyone was gaining, obviously. Losers.
No, definitely some significant drops. Asian Paints led the way down, 2.4%. Probably worries about costs or competition. Grasim Industries fell 2.3%. Adani Enterprises down 2.2%. Ultratech Cement lost between, say, 1.9 and 2.2%. And ITC was down 1.8%. Tata Steel also down 1.8%. Metals often react to global demand and tariff news.
Makes sense. So digging into today's trading, what specific stocks are really in focus?
Well, Yes Bank is one to watch. They've received that crucial approval for a foreign stake. That could really help their capital base, maybe expand operations.
Okay, that sounds positive for them. Anyone else?
On the other side, JSW Steel, they've been issued a demand notice. Seems related to environmental compliance. This could signal, maybe tighter regulatory scrutiny for heavy industry generally.
Yeah.
Companies might need to recheck their compliance.
Right. And then there's that ongoing story with Anil Ambani Group stocks.
Ah, yes. Arcom and Reliance Telecom specifically. Bank of India has now declared those accounts fraudulent. This follows SBI doing something similar earlier.
Wow. And Ambani's firm's response.
They're saying he had no role, basically, and is being selectively singled out. It really highlights the complexities around corporate accountability, especially when major banks make these kinds of declarations. Big legal tangles involved.
Definitely a situation to keep an eye on. And quickly, any IPO news?
Yeah, for those tracking new issues, Vikran Engineering is upcoming, plus 9 other new issues on the horizon, and 8 listings this week, including Vikram Solar. So, yeah, it looks like a busy period for market entries.
It certainly does. Now, how does all this market action connect to broader policy?
Oh, deeply connected. PM Modi's vision, he talks about quantum leaps, right? Not just small steps. It's about a real commitment to reforms, focusing on self-reliance, like metaverse for us. We're seeing concrete examples, that big R's 5,477 crore infrastructure plan, new railway projects. And look at Maruti launching its first electric SUV in Gujarat. These aren't just small things.
Trying to shift the industrial base.
Exactly. Aiming to transform it, boost competitiveness, cut down on imports. And it's not just government. The private sector's pushing too. The CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, they've put up this huge wish list.
Oh, yeah. What's on it?
Over 250 proposals across 14 areas. Things like tweaking taxes, speeding up dispute resolution, simplifying tariff structures, all aimed at boosting growth, making business easier.
Sounds ambitious.
It is. And speaking of ambition, India's power sector transformation is another key area. Really aggressive push on renewable energy adoption, trying hard to hit those 2030 green targets. Though, there are hurdles. Skill gaps, payment risks in the transition, it's not simple.
And support for trade routes.
Yeah, the government just announced a massive 70,000 crore package for the shipping sector. Shows how important they see that strategically.
Okay, so a lot happening domestically. Let's shift gears slightly. Zoom out to the global picture. What's the latest from the U.S. Federal Reserve? That always sends ripples.
It really does. And the latest is Fed Chair Jerome Powell hinting at possible interest rate cuts. Traders are pretty much banking on a September cut now.
And why is that so significant for markets like India?
Well, lower U.S. rates usually mean a weaker dollar. And that tends to make emerging market assets, including India's, look more attractive to global investors. Could mean more capital flowing in.
Okay, but then there's this shadow, this potential Trump tariff shock. That sounds ominous.
It is a concern. You have figures like J.D. Vance defending potential tariffs on India, calling them aggressive economic leverage.
Leverage, wow. But what's the likely economic impact?
Well, Saugata Bhattacharya warns these proposed 25% penal tariffs. They're clearly tilted to the downside for growth. They could really hurt India's export sectors, dampen overall expansion.
So the Nifty's recovery could be fragile if these hit.
It could struggle, yeah. We're already seeing some potential signs, maybe. Pharma stocks roaring, perhaps defensive moves, while metals are crashing, very exposed to trade.
Interesting divergence.
But here's the counterpoint. Despite these tariff worries, many fund managers actually predict emerging markets will outperform developed ones.
Really? Why is that?
They're looking at maybe a 15% gain for the MSCI Emerging Markets Index versus 10% for developed markets. It comes back to that expected Fed easing making EM investments look good. Plus, a view that many emerging nations have prudent fiscal policies and better growth prospects right now might buffer them somewhat.
So a complex picture, which brings us to the wider geopolitical stage. What's happening there?
Yeah, it's all interconnected, isn't it? In the U.S., domestically, some big shifts. The National Guard in D.C., for example, now authorized to carry M17 pistols, M4 rifles, part of the Trump administration's crime crackdown. It's a visible escalation.
And plans for other cities, too.
Yeah, talk of deployments to Chicago and Baltimore, but facing strong pushback from local leaders like Mayor Johnson and Governor Moore highlights that federal-state tension. And internationally, the U.S. is sending warships, Marines, submarines toward Venezuela. An anti-drug push, they say, but a major show of force.
Wow. And other global conflicts. Ukraine.
Still very much ongoing. President Zelensky's now talking about direct talks with Putin. Maybe a strategy shift? Unclear. But at the same time, drone attacks hit Russian territory, including a nuclear plant and a major fuel terminal just Sunday. So escalation continues militarily. Even saw Canada's PM Mark Carney visiting Ukraine, considering sending peacekeeping troops. That'd be a big step.
And the Middle East.
More tragic news. Israel launched deadly airstrikes on Sana'a, Yemen's capital. Killed at least 4. Just adds to the crisis and regional instability.
So amidst all this global turbulence, where does India position itself?
Well, PM Modi's vision for Bharat playing a bigger global role, emphasizing strategic autonomy, self-reliance that becomes really critical. It's about navigating these shifts. And investors seem to agree India remains a top global equity bet, partly because of that perceived stability and growth potential.
And managing resources in this environment. Oil, for example.
Strategically important, India is looking at deeper oil ties with Brazil. Partly diversification, partly due to that U.S. tariff uncertainty. And we're seeing sanctions bite. U.S.-EU sanctions impacting Nayara Energy's construction work, forcing them towards a dark fleet.
Dark fleet? What's that?
Basically older, less traceable ships, often used to get around sanctions. It shows the complex, sometimes murky world of global energy logistics and politics.
Fascinating and a bit concerning. Okay, let's bring this closer to home again. What do these big shifts mean for companies and for, our own finances? What's catching your eye on the corporate side?
Some really interesting moves. Wipro, for instance, making a huge $375 million bet on AI. Definitely a push for future growth, but you have to wonder about the short-term hit to their margins. These things cost money up front.
True. Any contrasting stories?
Well, Honda's electric two-wheeler plan seems to be sputtering a bit. Reports say 85% of their stock is unsold. Suggests real challenges cracking that Indian E2W market. Maybe pricing, maybe infrastructure, maybe something else.
85%. Wow. Okay, what else?
Zerodha, the brokerage, they've launched a second demat account option. This could help with tax planning, separating long and short-term holdings better. In fintech, a startup called Kiwi raised $24 million. They want to launch credit lines directly on UPI.
Leveraging that huge UPI adoption.
Exactly. Tapping into UPI and the demand for easy credit. And Enmoville, an enterprise supply chain platform, raised $6 million. They're boosting AI and looking to expand globally. Shows the focus on smart logistics. Oh, and Microsoft just leased a huge office space in Hyderabad, 264,000 square feet. Signals their ongoing expansion plans in India.
Big moves. What about regulatory impacts, policies changing things?
Oh, absolutely. That ban on real money gaming in India, it's put nearly $15 billion in investments at risk. You see companies like Dream11 reportedly talking to the BCCI about exiting their big jersey sponsorship deal, exploring alternatives.
That's a massive fallout. Affects the whole digital ecosystem, right?
It does. Could potentially chill innovation, maybe even some foreign investment in tech. It's a significant policy shift. And something more directly affecting consumers, E20 petrol. That's the blend with 20% ethanol.
Yeah. What's the impact?
Fuel efficiency could drop slightly, maybe 2 to 5%, depending on your car. It's greener, yes, but there's a small performance trade-off many drivers will notice. Might need to adjust expectations a bit.
Good to know. So with all this going on, market swings, corporate plays, policy changes, what are the key takeaways for personal finance? Those aha moments.
Okay, number one, and it's crucial. If your EMI kills your savings, you cannot afford it. Sounds basic, right? But don't let debt payments stop you from building security. Manage that debt load carefully.
Solid advice. What else?
See with buying unlisted shares.
Yeah.
Be careful. 3 key rules. Do your homework, due diligence, understand the valuation, and know the liquidity risks. They're different beasts from listed stocks. Also gold. It's up a massive 27% this year, beating stocks.
Wow, 27%.
Yeah. So everyone's asking what's next, especially with those Fed rate cut hopes floating around. Lower rates often boost non-yielding assets like gold.
Interesting dynamic. Any insights on different generations?
There's this paradox with Gen Z. They're seen as savvy investors in many ways, but 55% are apparently living paycheck to paycheck. Raises big questions about financial security, cost of living pressures.
Yeah, that is a worrying statistic.
And for our NRI listeners, non-resident Indians, really understanding NRE versus NRO accounts is key for managing funds, repatriation, taxes. They work differently. And finally, a classic reminder, third-party insurance. It's vital. Not just legally required, but essential protection against potentially huge liabilities. Plus, know how to recover if you do face financial losses.
Great practical points there. Okay, let's shift to our final segment, the innovation spotlight. Today, we're looking at something really fascinating. It could change how we think about AI, and the inspiration comes from, well, tiny bees.
Yeah, this is cool research. It's titled something like, Why Tiny Bee Brains Could Hold the Key to Smarter AI. Basically, researchers found that bees use their actual flight movements, the way they move, the visual information they get while flying, to sharpen their brain signals.
So the movement itself helps them think or perceive better.
Exactly. It lets them recognize patterns, navigate incredibly accurately, all with this tiny, low-power brain. It's remarkable. Their body and brain are working together for perception.
That's amazing. So it's not just about copying the brain structure, but how it interacts with movement.
Precisely. They built a digital model of the bee brain and showed this movement-based perception could, well, revolutionize AI. It's not just mimicry. It's understanding how a small, super-efficient biological system does complex tasks with minimal energy.
So what are the potential applications?
Think about AI that's way more efficient, more adaptive, less reliant on just massive data sets and huge processing power. It offers new paths beyond current methods, maybe AI for small devices, low-power edge computing, or really robust autonomous navigation systems that can adapt to messy real-world environments using fewer resources, like a bee does.
Incredible. Learning from nature's tiny engineers. What a deep dive today. We went from market jitters, Yes Bank, the Ambani situation, all the way through Fed hints, Trump tariffs, Wipro's AI bet, Honda's e-bikes, and landed on AI inspired by bee brains. Quite the range.
It really covers the spectrum, doesn't it? Which leads to our final thought for you today. In this increasingly complex world economic shifts, global tensions, tech leaps happening constantly, what aspect of deep diving into information do you find most crucial? Is it understanding the why, connecting the dots, focusing on the practical impact? What helps you make sense of it all and make your own informed decisions?
Something to definitely ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time.